Okay, I'm going to do some jumping around in the Beethoven C minor violin piano sonata. So I'm starting with the first movement, if I can. Let's see. It's just so sloppy when it's a question of just placing your hand right. So it's awareness. I love to be relaxed, but I don't want to be unalert. Okay, I'm going to skip to the first contrapuntal section. Keep it light. You know what? I once was told this story about Rudolf Serkin playing perhaps a Beethoven concerto or a sonata or something, and he was quite a perfectionist, and he was aware that he had gotten through a major portion of the first movement of his Beethoven without making a mistake, and it made him so nervous that he reached out and intentionally played a wrong note just so he could get over it. I felt the uptightedness of saying, good grief, that page went well. And then I realized there's a new challenge here, and psychologically we all have to be prepared not to demand really good results from ourselves when we don't think we deserve it or it isn't really well learned or something like that, but a question of just being aware that doing well, if you've prepared well, is just a question of state of being. If you're at ease with what you ask yourself to do, time slows down, you're more likely to remember what you need to do. If you're concerned, that little bit of panic clouds your judgment. So that's exactly what happened to me. I was doing well, and then I made myself nervous. Now that wasn't nervous, that was too casual. I knew I was going towards a F here, but what I neglected to do was to remind myself how easy the left hand was at that point. Just for repetition. Difficulty. It requires awareness. This tritone from 1 to 2, I could certainly do something different, but I'm not going to. It just requires a very, very specific choreography. It requires an incline of the hand that optimizes that. And perhaps doesn't hurt. situation in which you start to stare at the music in the desperate hope that it will tell you what to do, when there's not enough time to do that, or when you would be much better off looking at your hands on the keyboard and seeing what they're doing, especially if placement is an issue. Now, it's quite possible, like there, that if you know it really, really well, you can trust it implicitly and physically without looking. But you need to get to that point. I'm kind of idly looking there, this fairly casual look. It's just enough to put me at my ease, so. Myself nervous again. And go back here. Overthinking, and then I just underthought. E flat scale, E flat scale. Skip too. Let's see. Be more aware of the left. Feels slightly different from the other key, so this little tilt of the hand. Sufficiently defined fingering. But believe it or not, I felt better about that. Not that it wasn't a bit of a shambles, but the hand redivision and the fingering and the thought process was clearer than it has been. So I know it's getting. So now I need to build my trust in myself and in my solution. In other words, I know it's a good solution. I've worked it out. Yeah, and I have to be a little more aware of how little the left hand has to move, actually. Here it has to move a little more. Because I'm looking ahead. Oh, that's so silly to land on 2. I may need to be on 2 ultimately. familiarity is coming. So let me skip a bit. There we go. That was. I had reminded myself to complete this up and down group. To here, to the thumb. So now. Excuse me. Full chord. So. An octave. And I didn't go to an octave, I played a sixth, I think. I need to be aware of what I'm going for. There it is. Here. Oh yes. I'm heading for trouble. I have a new fingering here that I've got to. Oh. I invoked it one beat too soon. I also. You can't make a fingering work in isolation. In other words, if your hand is tight because you're uptight, then it won't work. This works very well when there's a subtle undulation of the hand. And I. I have time. My partner doesn't even come in at the beginning. So I have to establish my figuration. There it is. Oh yes, I remember. I have to decide if I want that sneaky little. I remember feeling this is a delicious thing. Do I have time to learn it? That's redividing the tremolo on the very last note. It eliminates that last. First of all, that significant cross in front of the body, and second of all, the 1/4 after all those thirds. So I would really like to embrace that. Let's see. much easier.